None. Anybody from the public here to comment? Seeing as there are none, motion to adjourn is in order.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you all. We're going to wait for about 5 or 10 minutes to get the regular meeting started so we can celebrate with Principal Dulting and the
Okay,
other-
that's who did it. Got it. Thank you.
What's going on with you? You did?
In America, make America great again.
Apologize for the slight delay, but I'd like to welcome everybody to the last meeting of the calendar year, Tuesday, December 20th. So at this time, I'd ask everyone to rise and join us in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Regular roll call for Village Board meeting, December 20th, 2016. Trustee Maher. Here. Trustee Grady.
Here.
Trustee Panito. Trustee Vandenberg.
Present.
Trustee Yunker.
Here.
Trustee Suggs.
Here.
We have a quorum. Item number 1, approval of the agenda. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item number 2, approval of the minutes of the special village board meeting and regular board meeting held on December 6, 2016. May I have a
So
motion?
moved.
And a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 3, approval of the consent agenda. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
And a second.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Mr. Clerk.
Item 3, consent agenda. A, payment of outstanding bills in the amount of $3,533,188.57 as listed on the vendor board approval reports dated December 9th and December 16th, 2016. And roll call. Trustee Maher.
Yay.
Trustee Grady.
Yay.
Trustee Panito.
Yes.
Trustee Vandenberg.
Yes.
Trustee Yunker.
Yay.
Trustee Suggs.
Yay.
Motion carries. Item number 4, proclamation recognizing Nicholas Fleshman on achieving the rank of Eagle Scout. Nicholas is with us, I gather. Please step on up and tell us a little bit about what your project was. Yeah.
Hello.
It's there.
My project was we went into the Stonebridge Church or Southbridge Church, right off of 100 off of Harlem. Yeah. Sorry, I should know this. And then we just refurbished a hallway, so we repainted it. We took off some of the doors and repainted those, and we put guards on the walls, and we just kind of made it look nicer and presentable as the church was continuing through with their refurbishing of their whole church. They just asked us to help with one part, and we did.
Well, great. Great. Well, we appreciate that. We've got a proclamation for you. And Mr. Cook, I don't know if you can read that for us while we're presenting.
No.
Okay. Well, I'll read it down there. How about that? Won't make this a big deal. But it is a big deal, and we're very proud of you. A proclamation recognizing Nicholas Fleshman, whereas the highest award of the National Council of Boy Scouts of America can bestow upon a scout is that of Eagle Scout. And whereas Nicholas Fleshman has attained the rank of Eagle Scout, the highest rank in scouting, and whereas in order to qualify as an Eagle Scout, a young man must demonstrate outstanding qualities of leadership, a willingness to be of help to others, and superior skills in camping, life-saving, and first aid. Whereas in earning the highest rank of Boy Scout, Nicholas W. Fleshman joins an elite and honorable fraternity of achievers that accounts as a small percent of the total population of the United States, but an extraordinary number of Eagle Scouts are among the nation's greatest leaders in business, government, education, and other sectors of our society. And whereas the achievement of the rank of Eagle Scout reflects favorably upon Nicholas W. Fleshman, his proud family, his scoutmaster, and his fellow scouts, now therefore be it proclaimed on behalf of the 57,500 citizens of Tinley Park that the President and Village Board of the Village of Tinley Park join his family and friends in congratulating Nicholas W. Fleshman upon attaining the coveted rank of Eagle Scout and commend him upon unswerving dedication to excellence that is the hallmark of Eagle Scout. Congratulations. We need your signature. Now we're legal. Okay, thank you again, and congratulations. Good luck. And we'd like to ask Mom and Dad, come on up, say hello, and you've got to be proud of your son. So tell us how you got him involved. Obviously, you're doing the scouting thing too, so.
Actually, I'm Brooke Fleischman, my wife Kim. Actually, I'm an Eagle Scout. Christopher, our eldest son, he's also an Eagle Scout. I'm a Scoutmaster from Troop 911, which is sponsored by the police department. So,
Excellent.
very.
So family tradition.
Yes.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
And Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Thank you.
Okay, item number 5. Another great presentation to be made. In this particular case, we have a resolution for adoption, and this is Resolution 2016-R-19, recognizing Victor J. Andrews School Principal Robert Nolting upon being named as the 2016-2017 High School Principal of the Year by the Illinois Principals Association. May I have a motion, please?
So moved. Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, this with waiver of first reading. Does the maker of the motion and the second agree to that?
Yes. Yes.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Mr. Nolting, now the clerk can read.
I've got this one. Resolution 216R-019, recognizing Robert Nolting as Illinois High School Principal of the Year. Whereas, having been born in Harvey and graduated from Homewood Flossmoor High School in 1991, Robert Nolting spent a majority of his time as captain of his soccer team. And whereas, after high school, Robert Nolting attended the University of Wisconsin-Whitewater to pursue a degree in business and continue his soccer career. It wasn't until his sophomore year of college, while coaching young soccer camps over the summer, Robert realized business wasn't for him, and he decided to switch majors from business to education. Robert realized enhancing the lives of children was what he was most wanted to do. Whereas after graduating with his undergraduate in 1996 and a 4-year letter winner in soccer, Robert was hired for his first teaching position at St. John's Northwest Military Academy, teaching social studies to 7th through 12th grades. Robert taught every grade except freshman and was the head soccer coach, strength program coordinator, and assistant rugby coach. And whereas in his final year of his master's degree at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, Robert secured in his first administrative position as athletic director at Franklin High School in Franklin, Wisconsin. Coming from strong athletic background, playing soccer from a young age all the way through college, becoming an athletic director, he became best stepping stone to further his impact on younger adults he was meant to lead. And whereas in 2004, Robert Nolting made his way to the Tinley Park community as Associate Principal of Instruction at Andrew High School. In 2006, Robert shared his knowledge and passion for education at Carl Sandburg High School and spent 3 years as Assistant Principal of Instruction. In 2009, Robert Nolting returned to Victor J. Andrew as principal and has served proudly since. And whereas he has served as an IHSA board member, both secretary and president for the South Suburban Conference. He is actively involved in volunteer for Homer Athletic Club, coaching soccer and basketball. Robert and his wife Tracy have 2 beautiful children, Aiden 11 and Addison 9. The Nolting family is very active with PAWS, having rescued 6 pets, including 2 dogs and 4 cats. Robert and his family enjoy spending quality time in the great outdoors, such as hiking, camping, and many other athletic activities. And whereas during his 7 years of selfless public service to the students of Victor J. Andrew High School in Tinley Park, Robert Nolting was named the Principal of the Year by the Illinois Principals Association for the school year 2016 and 17. The award recognizes high school principals who have demonstrated a positive and meaningful impact on their students and learning community. Robert Nolting's favorite part-time about leading and serving his staff and students as Victor J. Andrew is the sense of community felt between parents, students, and staff. Now Now therefore be it resolved by the President and Board of Trustees, they would like to honor and congratulate Robert Nolting in his outstanding acts of service and achievements for all students and families at Victor J. Andrew High School.
There you go, sir. But, I mean, I think you've got so many great things going on in this community, and clearly schools are a huge part of it, because that's where our kids really learn a lot. And we just saw the Eagle Scout presentation, but you need that core of education, that core of family, to make Tinley Park the success that it is. So, we're proud of you, we're proud to have you get this recognition, and we're proud that you're here in Tinley Park. Thanks so very much. Thank you. Okay. Now, at this point, we get to do item number 6. Trustee Vandenberg.
Thank you, Mayor Seaman. This time, I move to consider ordinance number 2017-0-001, authorizing an amendment to deed restriction for the Paws property located at 8301 West 191st Street.
We have a second.
Second.
Thank you.
Thank you. The petitioner, People's Animal Welfare Society, also known as Paws, is seeking to release the restrictive covenant on their property located at 8301 191 Street. In 1997, a deed was recorded transferring this property from Brookside Glen developer to Paws. Pursuant to the village board action, the deed contained a restrictive covenant limiting the use of property to an animal shelter with the right of entry and repossession in favor of the village if the use of the property as an animal shelter ceases. Paws has outgrown their facility and wishes to sell their property as part of a funding construction of a larger facility in Mokina. The village has benefited from their relationship with Paws by receiving free impoundment services, which will continue as part of with their new facility. The planning committee considered the request and recommended approving an amendment to the deed restriction allowing for the sale of the property to a non-animal shelter use, so long as the property is returned to taxable status.
This item is for first reading, and we'll direct council to draft the paperwork necessary. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 7, Trustee Vandenberg.
Thank you. At this time, I move to consider ordinance number 2017-0-002, granting a special use permit to allow for a residential unit above commercial space in the B3 General Business District located at 6787 159th Street.
May we have a second?
Second.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Our petitioner, Kevin McWilliams of Mac Companies, is seeking approval for a special use permit for a residence to be located above a principal commercial use. The Plan Commission held a public hearing on December 1st, 2016, and after the findings of fact, voted in favor of the request for the special use with the following conditions. So if I could read those into the record, please. That the outstanding change of ownership conditions be completed by the property owner prior to receiving a certificate of occupancy. Number 2, that a landscape plan be submitted to the staff by December 15, 2016, and an escrow or bond be provided to guarantee the installation of the landscaping by June 1st, 2017. And the third and final is that the existing non-conforming freestanding sign be altered to meet the village's current sign regulations or to be replaced with a new sign meeting the village's current sign regulations. Is the petitioner here this evening? No. Do you have anything that you'd like to add to the record?
No, we're fine with those conditions.
Thank you. This is first reading this evening.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item number 8, Trustee Vandenberg.
Thank you. At this time, I move to consider ordinance number 2017-0-003, granting a special use permit to allow for a commercial indoor recreation use greater than 3,500 square feet in the B2 Community Shopping Bremen Town Mall PUD, located at 6805 159th Street.
May we have a second?
Second.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Brian. Our petitioner, Mike Kosciolik of United Athletics, is seeking approval for this special use permit to operate a commercial indoor recreation use, which is greater than 3,500 square feet. Again, the Planning Commission had a public hearing on December 1st of 2016. God bless you. And after the findings of fact, voted in favor of requesting for the requested special use with the following conditions. The petitioner provides security cameras. The petitioner make improvements to the facade, including the erection of an awning on the access door on the east facade and the removal of the opaque covering on all of the windows. That crosswalks be implemented on the exterior of the tenant space per staff's recommendations, and a stop sign to be located in the northeast corner controlling the east-west traffic. These are all the conditions to the special use. Our petitioner is here. Is there anything you'd like to add, Mr. Kosciolik?
Just like to say thank you for potential opportunity with the special use permit. We hope that we can be active community members or residents here. We think provide a good service to the children, not only to Tinley Park, but surrounding areas as well, hopefully to draw some good benefit to them through athletics. So, thank you.
All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 9, Trustee Maher.
Thank you, Mayor. This time, I'd ask the board to consider for adoption ordinance number 2016-0-075, establishing the Tinley Park Brand Leadership Subcommittee of the Main Street Commission.
May I have a second?
Second.
Thanks.
you.
The village formally approved a new brand focused on music. The village needs to create a brand leadership team that will be a subcommittee of the Main Street Commission. Members of the brand leadership team have made a 2-year commitment to serve as champions of Tinley Park's brand. They'll be tasked with selling the brand and attracting additional champions for the cause. They will act as the voice of the brand, working on a hands-on capacity as advocates for the brand vision, being instrumental in fulfilling all of the recommendations set forth in the action plan.
This item is up for adoption. Anybody from the board have any questions about it? Anybody from the public have any questions about it? Let the record reflect there were none, Mr. Clerk.
Roll call, Trustee Maher.
Yay.
Trustee Grady.
Yay.
Trustee Panito.
Yes.
Trustee Vandenberg.
Yes.
Trustee Yunker.
Yay.
Trustee Suggs.
Yes.
Motion carries. Item number 10, I'd like to ask that the board consider ratification of the appointments to the Tinley Park Brand Leadership Subcommittee of the Main Street Commission. Brand Leadership Subcommittee members being Beth Fahey, Dennis Suglich, Julie Volkman, Julie Decker, Daniel Fitzgerald, Greg Carter, Vince Aliello, Ken Shaw, Eduardo Manny, and his associates, Courtney Rourke, Jason Freeland, Jackie Bobbitt, Nick Kalikias, Rebecca Palumbo, and Diane Galante. May I have a concurring motion, please?
So moved.
And a second.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. We have ourselves a branding committee. Are there any comments you want to make on it, Brian?
First of all, I want to thank all the people who volunteered to serve on that committee. We had a lot of interest, and I know even Diane was a late addition on the associates. So there's a lot of excitement about this, and I think we're all looking forward to working together and promoting this brand and making it an exciting part of our future.
Absolutely. Thank you, Brian. This time, now we get to do the real fun ones. Brian Maher, you've got item number 11.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I'd ask the board to consider adopting ordinance number 2016-0-063, levying taxes for the corporate purposes for the Village of Tinley Park for the 2016 tax levy year.
May I have a second, please?
Second.
Thank you.
Thank you. The property tax levy request for 2016 will be set at $25,541,964. This amount is unchanged from last year's end, and thus represents a 0% increase over the previous year's total dollars. The village levy amount has not changed for the past 3 years. This levy amount is net of abatements for debt service, which will be considered in ordinances 2016-064 through 069 in the total amount of $6,095,120. If those funds were not abated, the total required levy would be $31,637,084 and would represent an increase of 23.9%. The Village of Tinley Park portion of the levy amounts to $19,980,020. This amount is $348,108 lower than the village's traditional levy tax cap formula would permit. The Tinley Park Public Library portion of the levy amounts to $5,561,944 and is also unchanged from the prior year and unchanged since 2012. Since the levy increase is less than 5% of the prior year's extended levy, publication of a truth in taxation notice or a black box notice and public hearing are not required. The amount of the levy was reviewed and determined at the Finance and Economic Development Committee meeting, which was held September 6th, 2016. The library's levy request was approved at the library board meeting held October 27th, 2016.
This item is up for adoption. Anybody on the board have any questions? Anybody from the public care to comment or question? Let the record reflect there were none.
Item 11 on roll call for ordinance 063, trustee Maher.
Yay.
Trustee Grady.
Yay.
Trustee Panito.
Yes.
Trustee Vandenberg.
Yes.
Trustee Yunker.
Yay.
Trustee Suggs.
Yes.
Motion carries. Item number 12, trustee Maher.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The next 5 or 6 items are the abatements that were mentioned in the last matter. These are abatements that because we have other sources of funding, don't have to be passed through to the taxpayers on this particular levy. The first one, I'd ask the board to consider for adoption ordinance number 2016-0-64, abating all of the 2016 tax levy requirements as provided for in the bond order dated April 10, 2008, in connection with the issuance of $5,005,000 general obligation refunding bonds, Series 2008 of the Village of Tinley Park, Cook and Will Counties, Illinois.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. The 2016 tax levy requirements for this bond issue is established at $603,200, and the village is in a position to abate the entire amount of this levy from funds in the Oak Park Avenue TIF district or the Convention Center TIF district.
This item is up for adoption. Anybody from the board have any questions? Anybody from the public have any questions? Yes, Mr. Eberhart.
What was the $5 million plus general obligation refunding bond series 2008 spent on?
I think we defer to the,
That was for building the convention center.
And the source of the funds in the Oak Park Avenue Convention Center Tax Increment Financing District, where did that come from?
Comes from property taxes that are out, that are from the TIF increment generated.
So the people who are paying property taxes in the TIF district are basically paying this abatement.
That's how TIF works, yes.
Okay, thank you.
anybody else from the public care to comment or question? Seeing as there are none, Mr. Clerk.
Item 12 on roll call for ordinance 064, trustee Maher.
Yay.
Trustee Grady.
Yay.
Trustee Panito.
Yes.
Trustee Vandenberg.
Yes.
Trustee Yunker.
Yay.
Trustee Suggs.
Yes.
Motion carries. Item number 13, trustee Maher.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This time I'd ask the board to consider adopting ordinance 2016-0-065, abating a portion of the 2016 tax levy requirements as provided for in the bond order dated March 3, 2009, in connection with the issuance of $10,235,000 general obligation refunding and improvement bonds, Series 2009 of the Village of Tinley Park, Cook and Will Counties, Illinois.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
The 2016 tax levy for this bond issue is established at $950,495, and the village is in a position to abate $600,495 of this levy from the following sources and amounts. From the Water and Sewer Revenue Fund, $315,765.94. From the Bond Stabilization Fund, $180,791.56. And from the CERTAC Capital Projects Fund, $103,937.50. The net levy remaining for this bond issue will be $350,000.
Any questions from the board on this item? Anybody from the public care to comment or question? Certainly.
$10 million plus in general obligation refunding and improvement bond series 2009. What was that money spent on?
That was water and sewer projects, that was road projects, the extension of 183rd Street through Wood Range Road, and some other village projects, which I don't recall off the top of my head.
Okay, and the Water Sewer Revenue Fund, what is the source of those funds?
That is water and sewer revenue from the utility fund.
So that's what we see on our water bills when we get those and pay those, correct?
Correct.
Tax bond stabilization fund, what was the source of those funds?
Those are village funds that have been set aside for stabilizing the property tax levy for debt service.
And where do those funds initially come from?
Comes from general revenues.
And these surtax capital projects funds, the source of those funds?
That's a sharing of the income tax that has been set aside by the board for capital projects.
So in essence, when people pay into the water and sewer revenue fund, they're then paying towards this abatement, correct?
That's for water and sewer projects that are part of the utility, yes.
Okay, and the surtax capital project fund, that's the income tax money that's sent from the state back to the village.
That is correct.
Right, thank you.
Any other questions from the public? Let the record reflect there were none. Mr. Clerk.
Item 13, for final on ordinance 065, roll call, trustee Maher.
Yay.
Trustee Grady.
Yay.
Trustee Panito.
Yes.
Trustee Vandenberg.
Yes.
Trustee Yunker.
Yay.
Trustee Suggs.
Yes.
Motion carries. Item number 14, trustee Maher.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. At this time, I'd ask the board to consider for adoption ordinance number 2016-0-066, abating all of the 2016 tax levy requirements as provided for in the bond order dated December 16, 2009, in connection with the issuance of $16,380,000 taxable general obligation bonds, Series 2009A, Build America bonds, direct payment of the Village of Tinley Park, Cook and Will Counties, Illinois.
Do we have a second?
So moved.
Thank you. The 2016 tax levy requirements for this bond issue are established at $2,965,275, and the village is in a position to abate the entire amount of this levy from the following sources and amounts. From the Oak Park Avenue or Convention Center TIF District Fund, $2,930,178.76, and from the 35% Build America bond credit payment from the U.S. Treasury, $35,096.24. If the federal government reduces the amount of the interest subsidy, the shortfall will also be provided for from the TIF funds. The annual levy requirement provided in the bond order is the gross debt service before reduction for Build America bond credit payment authorized under the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act, also known as the stimulus package.
This item is up for adoption. Anybody on the board have any questions? Anybody from the public have any question or comment? Yes, sir. Step on up.
16 million plus, can you tell us what that was spent on?
That was for the expansion of the convention center.
Thank you.
Anybody else from the public have any question or comment? Let the record reflect there were none. Mr. Clerk.
Item 14 on roll call for ordinance 066, trustee Maher.
Yay.
Trustee Grady.
Yay.
Trustee Panito.
Yes.
Trustee Vandenberg.
Yes.
Trustee Yunker.
Yay.
Trustee Suggs.
Yes.
Motion carries. Item number 15, trustee Maher.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This time I'd ask the board to consider adopting ordinance number 2016-0-067, abating a portion of the 2016 tax levy requirements as provided for in the bond order dated August 16, 2011, in connection with the issuance of $5,940,000 of general obligation refunding bonds, Series 2011 of the Village of Tinley Park, Cook and Will Counties, Illinois.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The 2016 tax levy for this bond issue is established at $672,200, and the village is in a position to abate $150,000 of this levy from the surtax capital projects fund. The net levy will be $522,200 for this bond issue. The debt service item appears as part of the levy for the Tinley Park Public Library.
Anybody from the board have any questions about this particular item? Anybody from the public? Yes, Mr. Eberhard.
The almost $6 million, what was that spent on?
Construction of the library building.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Let the record reflect there were none. Mr. Clerk.
Item 16 on roll call for ordinance 068, trustee Maher.
Yay.
Trustee Grady.
Yay.
Trustee Panito.
Yes.
Trustee Vandenberg.
That's 067, Pat, by the way. not
Okay.
8.
Correction. Trustee Vandenberg. Trustee
Yes.
Yunker.
Yay.
Trustee Suggs.
Yes.
Motion carries. Item number 16, trustee Maher.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. At this time, I'd ask the board to consider adopting ordinance number 2016-0-068, abating all of the 2016 tax levy requirements as provided for in the bond order dated January 26, 2012, in connection with the issuance of $5,235,000 general obligation refunding bond series 2012 of the Village of Tinley Park, Cook and Will Counties, Illinois.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you.
The 2016 tax levy for this bond issue is established at $835,500, and the village is in a position to abate the entire amount of the levy from the following sources and amounts. From the Water and Sewer Revenue Fund, $420,256.50. From the Stormwater Management Fund, $250,650. And from the Surtax Capital Projects Fund, $164,593.50.
This item is up for adoption. Anybody on the board have any questions? Anybody from the public have any questions? Yes, Mr. Everett.
$5 million plus, can you tell us what that was spent on?
That was water and sewer projects, replacing water and sewer lines. That was part of the costs in constructing the Settlers Pond that helps take your house out of the floodplain. And it also involves some roadway work in the Main Street South tip. Thank you.
Anybody else have any questions? Let the record reflect there were none. Mr. Clerk.
Now, this is item 16 for ordinance 068. Trustee Maher.
Yay.
Trustee Grady.
Yay.
Trustee Panito.
Yes.
Trustee Vandenberg.
Yes.
Trustee Yunker.
Yay.
Trustee Suggs.
Yes.
Motion carries. Item number 17, trustee Maher.
This would be the last abatement ordinance. At this time, I'd ask the board to consider adopting ordinance 2016-0-069, abating all of the 2016 tax levy requirements as provided for in the bond order dated June 5, 2013, in connection with the issuance of $11,340,000 general obligation bond series 2013, Village of Tinley Park, Cook and Will Counties, Illinois.
May we have a second?
Second.
Thank you.
This the 2016 tax levy requirement for this bond issue is established at $940,650, and the village is in a position to abate the entire amount of the levy from the following sources and amounts. From the Hotel Motel Tax Fund and the Oak Park Avenue TIF, $376,260. From the Surtax Capital Projects Fund, $403,106.14. From the Water and Sewer Fund, $134,371.86. From the Stormwater Management Fund, $16,809.42. And from the Main Street South TIF, $10,102.58.
This item is up for adoption. Anybody from the board have any questions?
Brad, I have a question. We could levy this bond and interest payments in addition to, right? I mean, that,
Well, actually, when the bonds were issued, there was a schedule that was given to the county clerk to automatically levy the amounts required to pay that debt service.
Right.
And without this instruction, that would happen automatically.
so we're basically telling them, don't add
Don't
anymore.
do it
right?
because
I just want to make
got the money set aside
100%
for
sure
the
that's all. Okay, thank you.
Anybody else from the board have any questions? Anybody from the public have any questions? Mr. Everhart.
Again, the $11 million plus, what was that spent on?
Part of that was for the completion of the expansion of the convention center. It was related to the 80th Avenue train station, again, water and sewer projects and stormwater projects. And I was mistaken on the previous agenda. I had said the roadway realignment in Main Street South TIF. That was actually part of this bond issue.
Okay, now going over all the abatements between water and sewer monies, there's about $871,000. When you add the stormwater management, it comes up to about $1.1 million. Are these amounts built in by the village into the water and sewer and stormwater management billing? Or is this surplus money that you've gone into and say, we have this money, we're going to use it for abatements?
They're programmed as part of the rate.
So what you're saying is the village, just so I understand, calculates into the cost of water and the cost of sewer and whatnot to make sure that you have this money so that you can use this for property tax abatements.
That is correct.
Well, there's a twist to it. If you'll notice, all of these that we just have been through have been issued as general obligation bonds. and that is to achieve efficiencies in borrowing. A general obligation bond generally, and Pat's the expert, so he could probably say it better than I, but generally I think buys you down probably 25 to 50 basis points on an issue. So it's far more efficient and far less expensive to issue them as general ob, because that does obligate, in fact, the whole village for that particular debt that's been issued. But because we've got these other funds to offset it, we, as Brad just explained, do so to keep from hitting the property tax bill for it.
Okay, what I'm trying to figure out is whether or not the money that the residents pay into water and sewer, I mean, you've done this for the past 5-6 years that I've noticed. You've taken money out of water and sewer and you've abated taxes with it.
Longer, yeah, probably a lot longer.
Every year, do you go in and say, we have this surplus in water and sewer, now we can abate general obligation bonds, or has the village planned in their water and sewer rates basically to charge more so you can use the money as abatements?
The water and sewer rates have a component in the rate for the infrastructure improvements that are necessary to maintain the system. Whether we finance those through cash accumulations within the fund or through bond issuances, where we're then paying the debt service, is almost irrelevant, but it's for paying for that infrastructure. But it is definitely part of the rate structure, yes.
Right, so it is not every year you go in and say, we have this extra money, it's a surplus, let's use it.
No.
It's calculated in.
Correct.
Okay.
So again, this portions of these bond issues were for water and sewer improvements that were part of the enterprise fund, the water and sewer enterprise fund.
Okay, because you're obviously aware that our water rates are relatively higher than a lot of the communities around here.
I think it's just the opposite, sir. It's just the
Well,
opposite.
No, we sell water to New Lenox, who then transfers it to Mokina. And when you juggle the numbers and there's a base rate in some towns, there's not a base rate in other towns, we pay about $9 per 1,000 gallons. New Lenox is at 8, Mokina is at 7, and Orland Park, who has nothing to do with us, is at 4. But we're selling, the point is, I understand better now, but the point is, we're paying money for water more than a resident of a town who we're selling water to, and then the village turns around and takes the money out of the water and sewer fund to abate property taxes to avoid a property tax hearing.
No, that's not accurate. That's inaccurate, but it's inaccurate.
So is it a surplus, or is it built into the rate?
It's not, you basically, just as when you buy a house, you mortgage it. When you buy a 20-year, 30-year, perhaps 50-year asset, like a water line going to your house, you typically don't try to pay for it right away because you probably couldn't afford it. It wouldn't make sense to. So you spread it out over the life of the asset. And you do. Let me make one thing really clear about what we just went through right now. Every one of these general obligation bonds, whether it is to fund a water and sewer, a train station, or any other asset, is a long-lived asset. Not like some communities to the north of us that basically pay their payrolls by bonding. So think about that one.
And all I'm saying is, so then you're saying that the village, in the long run, is building into the rates that the people are paying this debt service.
Yeah, to pay for
because it's
maintenance of the
better to do.
system, absolutely. You gotta pay for what you use. It's a user-based fee, and that's the purpose of it, and periodically those are reviewed. Now, what other towns are charging or not charging their residents is not we don't set those rates.
I understand that, and I understand that we may have more expenses, and that's just what I'm trying to get to, that's all. Thank you.
You're welcome. Item number 18, Trustee Maher.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This time I'd ask the board to consider for adoption Resolution 2016-R-037, approving a settlement agreement and release in the RTA et al. Versus City of Kankakee case.
May we have a second?
Second.
Thank you.
In the fall of 2011, the Village of Tinley Park joined in the lawsuit filed by the RTA, Cook County, and other suburban municipalities against the City of Kankakee Village of Shanahan, a number of sales tax broker entities and retailers, claiming that the defendants had conspired to improperly source sales of goods outside of the plaintiff's jurisdictions to avoid local and regional sales taxes. The Village of Tinley Park is a co-plaintiff in this lawsuit, which is being managed and directed by the RTA in consultation with the co-plaintiffs. The Illinois Municipal Code allows local governments to recover tax revenue that was improperly sourced as a result of illegal sales tax agreements entered into after June 1, 2004, and is the basis for this litigation. A tentative settlement agreement has been reached with two of the defendants, Inspired Development LLC and Ryan LLC, that were involved in brokering the agreements, creating the sales tax diversions, and would release them from the ongoing litigation. This agreement would not end the lawsuit, but it will aid in simplifying the case going forward. The agreement provides for a cash settlement of $450,000 to the co-plaintiffs from funds being held in escrow and constitutes a recovery of approximately 50 cents on the dollar of sales tax revenue that the co-plaintiffs assert was improperly sourced from these two defendants. The Village of Tinley Park will receive a portion of this cash settlement only if it's determined that the funds came from a retailer located within Tinley Park's jurisdiction that had improperly sourced sales tax revenue through these two defendants. The execution of the settlement agreement does not bar the possibility of recovery of funds from the remaining defendants, whether by judgment or separate global settlement. This item was discussed at a Finance and Economic Development Committee meeting, which was held, it says prior to this meeting, but I think that was held prior to the last board meeting. Yeah.
This is a settlement agreement. Anybody on the board have any questions? Anybody from the public have any questions or comments? Let the record reflect there were none. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Item 18 on roll call for Resolution 037. Trustee Maher.
Yay.
Trustee Grady.
Yay.
Trustee Pinito.
Yes.
Trustee Vandenberg.
Yes.
Trustee Yunker.
Yay.
Trustee Suggs.
Yes.
Motion carries. With the board's indulgence, I'd like to go back to item 17 and call the roll on that because I guess I was distracted. Mr. Clerk.
Okay. Item 17, ordinance 069. Motion by Maher, second by Grady. Roll call. Trustee Maher.
Yay.
Trustee Grady.
Yay.
Trustee Pinito.
Yes.
Trustee Vandenberg.
Yes.
Trustee Yunker.
Yay.
Trustee Suggs.
Yes.
Motion carries. Item number 19, Trustee Grady.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd ask the board to consider approval of a professional services agreement with Emergency Communications Network, LLC, for upgrade of the village's emergency notification system.
May we have a second?
Second.
Thank you.
Thank you. The village's current emergency notification system, City Watch, is currently 15 years old, with the last update to the system taking place in 2010. The current system will soon no longer be supported by the manufacturer, Emergency Communications Network, due to its age. In order to stay up to date with the most current emergency notification procedures, staff is recommending that the village update the notification system to ECN's Code Red system. The Code Red system allows for pre-recorded, on-demand recorded, and automated messages via phone, text, and email. The Code Red system also has options for automated weather updates based on the National Weather Service. The Code Red system will also fully integrate with the village's Geographic Information System, GIS, and other village databases. The proposed contract with ECN is for the upgrade of the emergency notification system and 2 years of technical support. The proposed contract is approximately $14,000 under the budgeted amount of $35,000 for this expenditure. This item was discussed at the November 1st, 2016 Public Safety Committee meeting and recommended for approval.
This item is for an expenditure of funds. Anybody have any questions about this contractual? Anybody from the public have any questions? Let the record reflect there were none. Mr. Clerk.
Item 19 on professional contract for roll call. Trustee Maher.
Yay.
Trustee Grady.
Yay.
Trustee Pinito.
Yes.
Trustee Vandenberg.
Yes.
Trustee Yunker.
Yay.
Trustee Suggs.
Yes.
Motion carries. Item number 20, Trustee Yonker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like the board to consider ordinance number 2016-0-057, approving a land donation agreement between the Panduit Corporation and the Village of Tinley Park.
This is with the waiver of first reading. May we have a second, please?
Second.
Thank you.
There's a waiver of first reading on this one?
Yes.
Requested waiver, yeah.
This ordinance was postponed at the December 6, 2016 Village Board meeting. Panduit Corporation has agreed to donate 8.3 acres of property to Village for stormwater improvements. A portion of the property currently serves Panduit's stormwater needs, but will be enlarged to serve the needs of the downtown Main Street South TIF district. The village needs to approve a donation agreement with Panduit in order to receive this property.
This item is up for adoption. Anybody on the board have any questions?
I have a couple
Sure.
questions, if I could address them to the attorney. I read through the latest donation agreement, and I number 7B, they talk about a time frame no later than June 1st, 2017 for construction to begin on this. What happens if construction doesn't begin at that time?
Is that 3B, trustee?
It's under donates, covenants, and agreements. Page 4.
Okay.
Page 4.
And there's also, it's in the second part of the agreement as well, if you look at the conveyance paragraph under paragraph 3. Essentially, there are two things which would stop this deal, and when I say stop this deal, would be, the remedy would be to return fee simple title back to Panduit. The two conditions that the village has to meet are, one, we have to get the MWRD permit for construction and operation of the on-site work within 45 days of closing, and B, material performance of work on the site commenced by June 1, 2017. So we need to get our permit, and then we need to get shovels in the ground by June 1, 2017. I think actually by the permit, we need to do it sooner than that, but the remedy would be, if you read in that 3 conveyance, paragraph 3 conveyance, notwithstanding anything to the contrary, fee simple title of the donation parcel will revert to the donor in the event of either one of those conditions. We don't get the permit, we don't start building. Reverts
So-
back to Panduit.
So no financial
No,
cost to
it's
us
a
other than
reversion.
what we
They-
spent on engineering?
They get the property back.
Thank you. And then on number 9, they talk about we've inspected the land and take it as is. What do we know about that inspection? How thorough? How good? What happens if there's something under the property that
Sure.
we didn't see? Are we on the hook for that?
We're taking it as is. I think, Robinson, I think, Jennifer, you guys did the inspection, everything came out.
A geotechnical firm did the phase 1
Geotech
environmental
firm.
site
There
assessment,
you
noted that a phase 2 wasn't necessary per the phase 1 requirements. In addition, we did take 2 soil samples and tested those for common contaminants.
So you had a phase 1 geotech, with a recommendation for no phase 2, and they did some soil samples.
So
your engineer was-
Jennifer, how certain are we that it's clean property and not going to cost a lot of money to clean if we find something later? I mean, I don't know, how, 2 soil borings? I mean, how,
I mean, soil borings are a point of time, a point location. I mean,
Right.
you spend money taking 100 of them. It's a risk. It's a risk you take with any property transaction.
right?
In this case, soil borings were not even required as part of phase 1, but we did do them based on some comments we had received regarding the soil and such.
So you didn't notice anything in your inspections or the
No,
borings?
there
that
was
were-
no historical data or anything that indicated anything other than that.
Thank you.
Anybody else on the board have any questions? This item is up for adoption. Anybody in the public care to comment?
I would like
Mr.
to-
Pause. That's
Well, I would like to comment. Thank you, Mayor.
Please.
Mayor Senior. Couple things. First of all, I wanted to thank Trustee Panito for asking a couple very pertinent questions. I have a few of my own. What is the estimated value of the land that we're being donated to from Panduit? Was that in the agreement? Was that I'm assuming that they'll get some kind of write-off for this, yes?
Without a doubt.
I'm sure they will. Mr. Pause, let me answer that. The estimated, we didn't get a appraisal on it, so it's not in the agreement. My guess is they're gonna probably try to take advantage of some kind of tax credit. What that will be, it's up to them.
Okay. But there was nothing in the formal agreement of it's
I
about
don't-
this.
I don't believe so.
So, of course, Panduit being a privately owned company, it'll be kind of hard to figure that out, right? Counselor. But no, I thank you, Counselor, for your answer. I mean, I just, the reason I bring it up is I had brought it up at a couple earlier when we were discussing the TIF. I'm assuming that, when inevitably, I'm guessing, that we knock down the buildings around Panduit and the funds will be, now, obviously, we're not at that point yet, but it is a brand-new TIF district, correct? Number 5, and because of its contiguousness, if you will, of the other 4, they can shift the funds, correct, Treasurer Brandhausen?
That is correct.
So whether this is going, I'm assuming that's because there will be no revenue generated at that point unless like there's some kind of weird boom in the economy in the next 6 months. That's basically, what I guess what I'm trying to say is that I'm trying to figure out what we're getting from Panduit as far as the worth of the land as to what down the road when we're discussing how much money we're going to expend on knocking the buildings. I was just trying to get a comparison in case you were wondering why I was going through this. The other thing, just so we're all clear, the land in question is at the southwest corner of the property, if memory serves, at 175th and Ridgeland? Yep. And that's a small existing pond that's going to be greatly expanded. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think, is there an existing pond? Yeah, there's-
Swales now.
It'll be absorbed into the community.
And then in regards that, as part of this agreement, that we'll have full access to the land, we can walk around the pond and whatnot. It's not going to continue to be, as it is, if memory serves currently with Panduit, it's fenced in from Panduit. You can't access it as we walk by on 175th Street. Like, they'll take that fence down and all that is part of the agreement, that all the citizens will have access to land going forward?
Yes, the fence will be knocked down, and there will be no fence between the pond and Panduit's property, with the exception of the north side where the parking lot for Panduit will still exist to secure those.
Oh, of course, yes. All right, cool. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Just, I have 2 follow-ups based on that.
Is there a budget yet on this, on the pond? Or do we have to wait till it comes back from engineering to the budget?
The estimated construction cost of the pond is just under $4 million. And that
Okay.
includes the pond as well as the sewer and the outlet to the creek.
Okay, so the timeline is going to the engineer, you say it's $4 million. What's the timeline where it's gonna go to the architect? And then completion's gonna be June 1st? Is it going to an architect?
The landscape architect is working on passive recreation.
He's already working on it?
options.
What's his cost? You have no idea?
I don't know. I think he's got options and costs. I don't know that the village
Yeah,
has seen them yet.
there's 2 options on cost that he's given us. We're actually going to be reviewing it with the Public Works Committee as well as a TIF committee that the clerk is working with in the next few weeks.
Okay, is there, that's this question, there's gonna be some input from the residents, what's expected from this pond, such as saying, are we gonna be given walking trails, pavilions, park benches, such as this? Do we-
Yeah, as I mentioned, the
And that's
clerk
part
has...
of- That's part of $4
Yeah, he's
million?
established a committee, and basically, there's some additions that the board can make. Some of it obviously will be, we can do early on in the first couple of years. Some of it will have to wait till there's some money generated in the TIF.
Okay,
but-
so this pond's 8.3 acres, and this is for the downtown TIF. The downtown TIF is what, about 7 or 8 acres that we're gonna develop?
I don't know the acres off the top of my head.
It's approximately
But-
7, 8 acres. So we only really need about 3 acres for the downtown TIF, but we're putting in an 8-acre pond.
It's more than the downtown, it's
What is it?
Panduit, it's also, it's Panduit, it's the rest of the TIF that's gonna be
So
developed. too.
Panduit's giving us the property to put in a pond to benefit Panduit. for
Well, the TIF is to
development of
benefit the
Panduit.
whole village, the increment's gonna benefit.
But what I'm saying is we only really need 3 acres.
Can I help here?
No.
Oh, I can't, okay.
Okay, I'll just come back to you.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have 2 follow-up questions.
Go ahead.
Based on the audience's questions. This agreement doesn't obligate us to knock down any buildings, does it, Patrick?
It does not.
No.
And this
Does not.
agreement doesn't obligate us to allow Panduit any use of the pond further than what they've already used, expanded use?
There is, and Jennifer, if I get this wrong, please let me know. This was a lot of what delayed this agreement. There is acknowledgement of and I'm not gonna get it technically correct, but their property using the detention in there. So I don't know if I'm
they've
answering
been
that
using
correctly.
Well, it anticipates development.
So
So
leaving
expanded
room
use.
to anticipate development, yes.
So it's expanded use, do we know how much approximately the expanded use would be? I guess that'd be a question for Jennifer.
How much the pond
Would be
handle
used
it?
by Panduit, yeah.
I think it's upwards of 60%. Could be, depending on how Panduit develops, if it develops.
And we'd have to use 60% of it for that, potentially?
When you say use 60% of it.
I mean, this
but they're,
obligates us to let them use as much as they need for whatever they build?
Is that fair to say? As much as they need? I mean, what?
No, it obligates them, it obligates the village to allow them to use as much as the MWRD permit
Yes.
will allow them to use at time of issuance.
Yes.
Do we know what they're planning on building there? I'd heard different rumors about single-family homes or something like that. I mean, what if they decide to build a huge building and, you know?
Well, it's the footprint of the land, so the amount of imperviousness or hard surface would likely unchanged regardless of what the density that they would put there.
You see, my worry is, what if we spend $4 million to build a pond, and then the village doesn't get to use it for whatever their intended purpose is? And then my other worry is, what if this North Street project that they're doing all this for doesn't come to fruition? Those are my two big concerns. And I thought we'd have time between now and the next meeting to figure that out.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. So the land, there's no concern about like runoff from their existing business over there, where this property is being donated, that you would have anything in writing in the contract saying that they know of nothing? You know, I'm not sure how close this is. I just know that companies have been there long-term, definitely have contaminated in our environment.
Well, that
Is this any
particular,
of it
that
to be
particular area has
concerned?
always
No.
been greenfield, so there's never been
No,
a
it's not
building
close
on
to
there,
It's
you know.
nowhere close to where the water runs off from their business into this water?
Well,
That's my
I don't,
question.
I mean, they're piped into the municipal sewer system, so they, MWRD ultimately, so they don't.
Okay.
You know,
Okay.
they're not creating
Okay.
waste.
And then I had the same question you were asking, if they can develop this into anything. If a company came in here into the village and wanted to build homes, they would have to pay for the cost of putting in a pond to cover their area that they do, right? I mean, that would be part of their cost.
That's the usual procedure for development, is a developer bears some responsibility.
So I
unless
guess what's the
there's.
benefit for the village to want to take this donation? Because it seems to me we're kind of, I don't understand why we would want
Well,
to take it.
we can't manage the downtown development without having a place to put the water due to MWRD rules that have changed within the last probably 3 or 4 years, 2 years. So this is basically giving us the ability to develop downtown.
Why aren't we going to go for developer? I mean, aren't we going to get other people to come into our town and build their buildings and they have to cover the cost of that? No?
That would be part of, that could be handled one of two ways. Either that's an incentive or that's done as a cost of building that project, yes.
Okay. So wouldn't we, I mean, I feel like we're putting it, you know, like, why wouldn't we push for them to pay for this? Why would we want to do this? I guess is my question.
You can't do it incrementally. I mean, you can do it incrementally. It'll just cost you probably 2, 3, 4, 5 times what this price is. You can't dig out a little piece at a time, especially if you don't own the property. And right now, we don't own that property where that pond is. That is all owned by Panduit. So we won't have any place to put that water unless we
We have no
get
plan
this.
exactly set yet that we need that, right? I mean, there's nothing, is there something happening that?
We have a lot of, there are a lot of plans, and hopefully we'll be
that we're
seeing.
not gonna try to get developers to come in here and pay for their own businesses, and that comes out of their profits and not our taxes, I guess is my question.
That would be the objective.
Okay.
Anybody else have any questions? Yes, Mr. Everhart.
What would your position then be on the Hanson development asking for a recapture for some of those funds since they would benefit?
They've got the right to ask. just like any developer has
Well,
the
I'm
right to
asking,
ask.
what is your position on the village asking Hanson to pay a portion of the cost?
The developer would, any developer that comes to this town is going to, in this particular instance, is probably going to be a negotiated settlement. Will agree to funding. When you get to most downtowns, give you an example that's probably a little less complex than this. When you do downtown development, there are some developments, communities that don't require any parking at all. You don't have to park a car because the village assumes that responsibility. This is analogous to that.
Well, this young lady's concerned, I think she brings up a good point. If the village is going to spend the money to put this in, and the normal way of doing things is to have a developer dig the pond on his property before he subdivides, I'm just asking, what is your position on telling Hanson or some other developer, here's the recapture, we want X percentage from you to pay us, the village, back for putting this pond in?
And that is why you use TIFs. That is exactly why you use TIFs.
I think the answer is yes.
I don't get an answer, thank you.
I think the answer is yes.
Well, you do ask, but they tend to be negotiations. Any other questions from the public?
Yeah, if there's negotiations going on, who is doing the negotiating here, and what is Hanson actually getting? Now we're giving them $4 million for building a pond. Supposedly we're giving them a property that we bought.
I don't know what you're
South
talking
Street
about.
property that Tinley Park owns. Are they
Tinley
doing
Park,
this back then?
we own
bought
part
so
of
many
it.
properties, we tore down some of the homes.
We own part of it. We don't
Are
own
we
all
giving
of
that to
it.
Hanson to build?
We don't have a development agreement at this particular point in time.
Who's the person in the village that's doing the negotiation with Hanson? I mean, are we not negotiating with Hanson that's supposed to put the shovels in the ground this spring? And we'd like to know what we're losing on this project.
Well, I hope you're going to be gaining about a $40 million project. That's what I hope you're going to be gaining if that happens, which has got significant tax implications as well as significant people implications in terms of filling up your downtown.
Well, let's start from the beginning. What's it costing us? What are we
It
getting?
won't cost you $40 million.
So I'm not getting an answer.
I don't know. I don't have the development agreement, Dino.
We
You
haven't
can't
got
make
the
stuff
final-
up.
We haven't got the final plans.
I'm not
yet.
going to make stuff up.
We can't do a development agreement until we get the final plan.
True. Okay. Here's a non-money question.
You've been up already.
So is Dean.
You've been up already this time.
Dean went up twice.
You've been-
Or that's the only reason I hit.
No, well, you shouldn't have. So I.
Okay. All right. Well, I was just gonna say because I was.
You
gonna say,
you'll
if
give
you're
you a
gonna be
chance. We'll give you a
if-
chance at the end. We'll give you a chance then. No, not
No,
during.
that
Not
isn't
on the
rule,
same
but
subject,
I was just pointing out the
Michael.
fact that Dean went up again, so I thought I could ask him.
Well,
It's
I
okay. I got
apologize.
4
That
minutes.
was
of
my
public
fault.
comment. I was just like.
We'll catch you. We'll
consistent.
catch you on the back
Be
end.
consistent.
Any other comments? Okay, Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Item 20 on ordinance 057 for roll call, trustee Maher.
I choose to abstain. I do not have a conflict here, but my law firm does some unrelated legal work for Panduit Corporation. Therefore, to avoid the potential for an appearance of impropriety, I am abstaining.
Trustee Grady.
Yay.
Trustee Pinito.
No.
Trustee Vandenberg.
Yes.
Trustee Yunker.
Yay.
Trustee Suggs.
Yes.
Motion carries. Item number 21, Trustee Yonker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like the board to consider adopting ordinance number 2016-0-076, amending Title 9, Chapter 99 of the Tinley Park Municipal Code, Streets and Sidewalks.
Do we have a second?
So moved.
For the past several years, the village has required property owners along certain portions of Oak Park Avenue to remove the snow from sidewalks adjacent to their property within 24 hours of completion of a snow event. Due to the difficulties in fairly enforcing this ordinance, it has been determined it is in the village's best interest to rescind the ordinance that requires the snow removal. This item was discussed November 1st, 2016 at the Public Works Committee and the Village Main Street Commission and recommended for approval.
Anybody from the board have any questions about this? Anybody from the public? Let the record reflect we're none. Mr. Clerk.
Item 21, roll call on ordinance 076, trustee Maher.
Yay.
Trustee Grady.
Yay.
Trustee Panito.
Yes.
Trustee Vandenberg.
Yes.
Trustee Yunker.
Yay.
Trustee Suggs.
Yes.
Motion carries. Item number 22, Trustee Yonker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like the board to consider approval of a professional service agreement with Total Automation Concepts for upgrade of the village's temperature control systems at the Public Safety Building.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you.
For the last several fiscal years, the village has upgraded the temperature control systems at the village-owned facilities. The last major facility to be upgraded is the village's Public Safety Building. Benefits of the system and upgrade, but are not limited to the following. HVAC controls are accessible remotely, which allows for faster service. Staff training will be reduced to one type of system, and the updated controls are more energy efficient than the current controls. The proposed contract is approximately $15,500 under budget. Budgeted amount of $154,520 for this expenditure. This item was discussed November 1st, 2016, Public Works Committee meeting and recommended for approval.
This item is final for contract. Anybody from the board have any questions? Anybody from the public have any questions or comment? Let the record reflect there were none. Mr. Clerk.
Item 22, professional services contract on roll call. Trustee Maher.
Yay.
Trustee Grady.
Yay.
Trustee Panito.
Yes.
Trustee Vandenberg.
Yes.
Trustee Yunker.
Yay.
Trustee Suggs.
Yes.
Motion carries. Item number 23, Trustee Suggs.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like the board to consider adopting resolution number 2016-R-036, authorizing the execution of a paratransit agreement between the Village of Tinley Park and PACE for the Dollar Ride program for their period of January 1st, 2017 through December 31st, 2017.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you.
Thank you. This resolution would authorize the annual agreement with PACE where they would provide approximately 1/3 of the operating cost of the program. The Dollar Ride program in the village provides nearly 10,000 rides to its residents annually. The annual cost of the PACE Dollar Ride program is approximately $86,000 each year. PACE subsidizes approximately $25,000 of our program, leaving the village with the net cost of roughly $61,000.
This item is up for adoption. Anybody on the board have any questions? Anybody from the public care to question or comment? Let the record reflect there were none. Mr. Clerk.
Item 23, adoption of resolution 036 on roll call. Trustee Maher.
Yay.
Trustee Grady.
Yay.
Trustee Panito.
Yes.
Trustee Vandenberg.
Yes.
Trustee Yunker.
Yay.
Trustee Suggs.
Yes.
Motion carries. Item number 24, Trustee Suggs.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like the board to consider adopting ordinance 2016-0-074, amending section 30.16, subsection A of the chapter of our Title III of this Tinley Park municipal code that's related to our regular meeting of the President and the Board of Trustees.
Do we have a second? Thank you, Mike.
Thank you. This ordinance amends Section 30.16, subsection A of Chapter 30, Title 3 of the Tinley Park Municipal Code pertaining to the start time of our regular meetings for the Village Board of Trustees. The Board of Trustees voted on November 15th, 2016, at their regular Village Board meeting to change the time from 8 o'clock to 7:30. And the ordinance amends the village code to reflect this change.
This item is up for adoption. Anybody on the board have any questions? Anybody from the public have any questions? Let the record reflect there were none. Mr. Clerk.
Item 24, an ordinance 074, changing of starting time for the village board meetings. Trustee Maher.
Yay.
Trustee Grady.
Yay.
Trustee Panito.
Yes.
Trustee Vandenberg.
Yes.
Trustee Yunker.
Yay.
Trustee Suggs.
Yes.
Motion carries. Item number 25, consider resolution 2016-R-038, providing for the authorization for landing rights to Santa Claus in the village of Tinley Park. May I have such a motion, please?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Been moved and seconded. With a waiver of first reading requested, is that acceptable to the motion maker and second?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Clerk, are you going to do the honors?
Resolution number 2016-R-038, a resolution providing for and authorizing landing rights to Santa Claus in the village of Tinley Park, Cook and Will Counties, Illinois. Whereas the United States Federal Aviation Authority, more commonly referred to as the FAA, is responsible for all flights and landing operations in the continental United States, and therefore requires precise coordination for any and all domestic flying. And whereas in the past 60 years, thousands of man-made objects have been thrown into the atmosphere around the planet, thereby further complicating the safe movement of any flying machines and/or sleighs. And whereas the Illinois State Department of Aviation directs that local authorities establish necessary approval for any flights to land within the state except at registered airports, and whereas the sheriffs of Cook and Will counties further delegate that authority when properly approved to the municipalities of those counties. And whereas any miniature sleigh with 8 tiny reindeer shall designate the first reindeer to respond to landing signals with his blinking red nose. And whereas said sleigh shall be full of toys, it will not exceed the air travel weight load limit. And whereas the driver shall be a jolly old elf of outstanding character and shall have in his possession a good flying record. Now therefore be it resolved by the Village Board of Tinley Park, representing the great citizens of the community, provide that Santa Claus, with all approvals necessary, in whatever order required, to land at the homes as often as he deems appropriate on Saturday evening, December 24th, and Sunday morning, December 25th, 2016. Be it further resolved that the Police Department and Public Works Department and other municipal agencies shall provide speedy and helpful assistance to guarantee St. Nick's movement throughout the world.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. This item is up for final adoption. Does anybody on the board have any questions? Anybody from the public have any question or comment? Let the record reflect there were none. Mr. Clerk.
Roll call on final resolution 038, giving Santa Claus the right to land in Tinley Park. Trustee Maher.
Yay.
Trustee Grady.
Yay.
Trustee Panito.
Yes.
Trustee Vandenberg.
Yes.
Trustee Yunker.
Yay.
Trustee Suggs.
Yes.
Motion carries.
This requires signature.
And we will sign as well. Very well, sir. All right, at this particular time, are there any questions from the board or comments?
Just wish everybody a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Thank you.
I just want to say what a great job on the streets. I drove down the village streets, clear as clear could be. County streets and state streets, not quite as clear. Thank you.
Anybody else have any comments? I would like to associate my comments. Our Public Works people have done a fine job so far this year, and they've had some pretty brutal elements so early in December to deal with. So they've done a great job. So please, Kevin, share it with the members of the team that helped make it happen. Also, like to, as this is the final meeting of the year, thank the board and staff for a fine job. We got through an interesting year, and we just would, understand that this takes a lot of energy, patience, amongst other things to get through. So I appreciate that, and want to thank you all. It doesn't go unrecognized or noticed. Anybody from the public here to comment? Mr. Pause.
Real quick. Going back to what was brought up at a earlier meeting and the designation of the AV1 liquor license, I don't know what committee that would go through, so it's a little bit more clear, but, speaking with Jim, proposing it to be the AV1 liquor gaming license would be a bit clearer. I don't know where that would go, but as I read the minutes, which are pretty good this time, on the November 15th, I wanted to congratulate Trustee Suggs on a no vote, which are few and far between for everyone up there. But I did want to notice that you did, in fact, have a no vote on approving one of these AV1 liquor/gaming licenses. You were a no on Odyssey Sweet Spot, but right after there was another one, and you were a yes on Little Joe's. Any particular difference between those institutions as to why one was a no? Your first no, I think.
Let me start from the general. I don't think that me personally want to see the village of Tinley Park be known for gaming, video gaming in every restaurant that we go into, every gas station that, is being proposed. And one of the things why I said no to Odyssey, because they didn't have a plan for a kitchen, and most of the others had some sort of food element that was already.
Okay, so the difference was the fact that Little Joe's already had food.
Yes.
And then Odyssey at that point had no food.
They have plans, but they didn't have.
But it
they don't
wasn't
have anything
existing.
right now, right?
Okay.
So that was my justification
Oh,
for
okay.
saying no. So hopefully
No, I
that
got you.
helps.
Okay, food. Got it. All right. Swinging back to the pond, I know, didn't want to go over twice, but geez. In regards to the pond, does it stay the possession of the village, or is this going to get turned over to the park district?
I think the village generally maintains control and maintenance responsibility for ponds.
All right, because I don't know if you know this about the park district, but the rumor was that they have some kind of weird, like, they hate boat clause and they don't want any boaters on their waters. Is that going to apply to this pond in particular? Are you going to let people?
I think it depends on the nature of the construction of the pond.
Okay, so that's still to be determined as to, like,
We
whether
don't
you
know.
can kayak on it or anything.
I don't think you're gonna be able to.
I don't think this is.
Wow, $4 million and I can't kayak on the pond? Are you serious? Wow, that is disappointing. I mean, part of this is kind of joking, but part of it actually really is serious. We always look up to Orland on a lot of things, and Lake Sedgwick is actually a jewel that they have that, I don't know if everyone knows about it, but it would really be nice if something like Tinley Park had that going in the forest. If you guys are going to continue to consider purchasing the land over at the mental health center, it would be nice if you had something similar to Lake Sedgwick, because that would be something that would be beneficial to everybody in the community, and it would attract a lot of people both in and outside Tinley Park. So I saw that was in the paper that again we're going to go down that road in I guess March and May. So I'm going to throw in my 2 cents on that. It's like, how about we get a 4-reel lake, not a pond, that people can actually use their boats on, and something that would be nice for everyone in Tinley Park, since I don't know what else you're going to get there, since apparently development's such a difficult thing to pursue that close to the Cook County border. I guess one last thing in regards to I did read the minutes. I wanted to make one last comment on the quality of the minutes at the last Plan Commission meeting. Excellent work by the taker of the minutes. Every question that I had was posted in the answers, which was very detailed. Going back to that Main Street Commission meeting on January 20th, when there were questions that were asked and not written down at all, I would hope that the directive has gone out to all the people that take the minutes, that if there are questions asked, I would like them to be written down until we actually record them, which would just make all this a moot point, because, the minutes could be as shoddy as they want if we would record the committee and commission meetings, which is really where all the action happens. This is, like I said, this is fun, it's a show, but like I said, the no votes are so rare, everything's predetermined by the time it gets to this level. So, if the minutes aren't going to be solid, and like I said, they were very good in the last Plan Commission meeting, let's record all the commission and committee meetings. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else from the public care to comment? Yes, Mr. Eberhard.
Good news, bad news, and I hope I don't have to do one episode too, since we're at the end of the year. Want to comment on an email going back to April 28th, 2015. Amy Conley was asking about meetings with Buckeye Hope. And you, Mr. Mayor, responded to the former mayor, his secretary, Amy Conley, and the village manager, referring to Buckeye. Google them up. They have no problems going to court. I would be very careful about explaining our codes and their need to conform before this meeting occur. Right from the get-go, you understood that this was going to be a very touchy issue. Now, there's no emails, there's no comments, there's no information to indicate that anything else went on, but you knew and you understood. And I'm going to make some comments. A number of people come up asking about the sheriff's investigation. Social media is kind of going crazy today. But the village filed a defendant's response to Buckeye's motion for a temporary restraining order, where you go through what you found out. You really apparently didn't need the sheriff. Starting in May 2015, Buckeye began discussions with the village. The reserve was required to contain commercial business on its street level. The reserve was required. Buckeye stated it was not interested in building street-level commercial and did not want to seek a variance because a variance would require a public hearing, which Buckeye was seeking to avoid. Rather than comply with the legacy code, Buckeye decided it would attempt to change the code. To reach this goal, Buckeye sought to influence Planning Director Amy Conley. Then Amy Conley had conversations with Mr. Barnacle. Mr. Barnacle, one of the village attorneys, said, commercial required. On May 27, 2015, contrary to what Mr. Barnacle stated to Ms. Conley, Conley informed Buckeye, in her opinion, as planning director, the entire street level of the reserve would not need to be commercial, and then she changed tracks. June 19th, she sent her letter to Ida that we discussed back in February, where she told Ida, there's a requirement in the neighborhood flex zoning district for street level uses. It is my opinion that the applicant Buckeye has addressed this requirement by placing commercial type uses such as their leasing office on the first floor. Thereafter, July 25th, 2015, Ms. Conley once again wrote to Ida, stated that the reserve meets the spirit and intent of the legacy code. Then, directly quoting from the filing, Ms. Conley worked to change the code in a manner which would circumvent debate on the changing of a key component of the legacy code. Ms. Conley buried the commercial permitted amendment among several other text amendments. At no point when presenting the commercial permitted amendment did Ms. Conley explain to the Board of Trustees that the amendment would have the effect of creating business districts with no commercial business. Buckeye was aware of Ms. Conley's less than open dealings with the village and supported the same. In emails between Ms. Conley and Mr. Petroni requested a status update on the code cleanup. Ms. Conley's response is even more troubling, as she stated, text amendments will be approved on October 6th. No controversy so far. The reason she was so confident in the board's vote is that she knew that if she did not explain the impact of the commercial permitted amendment, there would be no reason for anyone to vote against it. On October 6, 2015, the Tinley Park Village Board voted to approve the commercial permitted amendment. The following day, Ms. Conley emailed Buckeye to let it know the same, and in the last line of her email chain to Buckeye, and in reference to the passage of the amendment, Ms. Conley stated, fallout not yet determined. This is further proof that Ms. Conley and Buckeye were working together to change the village's legacy code in a manner such as to deceive the Board of Trustees. Bad news, Mr. Mayor. You
Thank
knew
you, sir.
that. Pardon?
Thank you, your time is up.
You knew it.
Have
You
a
should
good
have done
evening.
something. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Was the consultant's recommendation that the chief of police be notified 24 hours in advance when Santa Claus meets with any former presidents of the United States or Department of Justice officials on any Tinley Park tarmacs? Did that carry forth through in the authorization too?
We'd have to check with our, the author of that ordinance.
It's a very good point. Let's work on that.
Anybody else care to comment? Once again, seeing as there are none, I want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas and the best of New Year's. Mr. Clerk, well, I could say we don't have to do this. All in favor of adjournment, signify by saying, have a motion, please.
Second.
Moved and second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you all.
What's your name?